Like, share, and subscribe. Let people know we're here talking about these truth and trending topics from a spiritual and metaphysical perspective. And also, go ahead and type your questions or your thoughts in, and we'll also share those as they come in as well. So don't forget to do that. Let's go ahead and introduce. We'll go ahead and start with you.
Reverend Terry Thompson, also known as Reverend Black Belt or Reverend Shownuff.
Reverend Chantel, also known as Reverend Chantel.
All right now.
We got to get a name for you.
Yes. And I am Reverend Drea, also known as Reverend Sunshine.
Hey.
So we're going to go ahead and dive right in and get started because we have a lot of meaty topics here to discuss. I want to give everybody a chance to have their say and talk about it. So I'm going to go ahead and let Reverend Terry really dive into this first topic that we have. He's the one that brought it up for us in our discussions earlier.
Sure. So I was driving, and when I'm in the car, I like to listen to NPR radio. There was a segment where they were talking about the recent sale or partial sale of the Los Angeles Angel City FC. It's a women's soccer team, and I think a majority share was sold in the franchise. Based on the purchase, the franchise is now valued at $250 million, which is about $110,000 more than the Las Vegas Aces, the women's team that's won the last two WNBA titles.
Okay.
So the value of women's team and women's sports is increasing, but it's still not on parity with the men. Very often the female players, especially in the NBA, have to go to Europe to be able to round things out for the season or to make a decent amount of money because they simply are not paid as much as their male counterparts. There just doesn't seem to be as much money involved. One of the things that came up during the segment that I listened to was that there was a player who was making a certain amount of money as a player. When she retired, she made more as a rookie newscaster, far more than she made as a player. Now, that seems a little bit backwards to me. And it brings up the larger question about women, pay equity, roles of women in society, and how we're viewing it, and whether or not women deserve to make as much as their male counterparts. So, Revs, what do y'all think?
Yes. Yes. But when I look at the context of sports, sports salaries are paid off of viewership and merchandising. And unfortunately, women's sports don't get the same viewership and don't get people spending money into them as men.
But isn't that starting to change, especially with the WNBA? I mean, I'm not an avid sports watcher, but what I've heard is that there are people that like women's basketball better than they like men's basketball. They say that it's more pure, that it's not as much about athleticism, and that it's a better game.
I think it's shifting, but the money isn't shifting. You know what I mean? Like, we still have to buy the jerseys of the WNBA players. We still have to go to the games of these WNBA players. If you look at now, I can say since, what's the young lady? Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark have been, yes, there is a momentum that is happening. So hopefully, eventually with those momentum, more money will come, more people will buy more merchandise, and these players can make the money they deserve. They're getting most of their money from endorsements, if they're lucky. You know what I mean? So that's where they're making most of their money. But you look at their actual salary, it's
like $50,000, $60,000 a year.
It's horrible. It's like a regular job, which...
And then they're still having to pay for a lot of their expenses on the road and things that just aren't covered.
And we know as a woman, you got to have your hair, your nail, like they still women. So it's a little bit extra for us. I'm sorry, it's extra for us to maintain ourselves. So I hope
I don't know about that because on that level, everybody has to maintain themselves. The guys with the haircuts, now they wearing the beards, they spend more on their beard grooming than I spend on my hair personally. So I don't know if it's more or less as far as that's concerned, but I wonder if it seems like a chicken or egg thing for me sometimes. Sometimes they say, well, there's not enough interest in the women's sports and all that kind of stuff, but with anything, you have to market it. You have to put it out there. Right. And if you're not putting it out there, if you don't invest, then how can their interest be built up the way it should. So I wonder if it's if it's not just a matter of people not interested in it, but a matter of how men and women are perceived in society, that men are often invested in more than women are, so it becomes something that's more than sports, What do you think?
I think that's an interesting concept. I mean, think about it. So I have younger kids, but think about it in high school. The high school basketball games. Did you go to the girls' basketball games? Did you go to the high school girls' basketball games? Or were the boys' high school basketball games like the one to go to and the ones promoted and the ones put out there? And that same, unfortunately, mentality of supporting the boys and the sports is still happening. I see the shift now being in the gym myself with my young people. The girls are getting a little bit more attention, but still the boys are, you know what I mean? If you stay in the gym past the girls' game, the gym is flooded, not just with parents, because we're going to support the kids, but with the other kids. So we have to, the mindset of society as a whole, maybe, on shifting and supporting girl or women sports kind of has to shift as a whole with us. You know what I mean? Like with the young people going to see the sports, like even in high school, they're not interested in going and seeing the girls play the basketball game because they're not dunking and they're not doing all the back, you know what I mean? They're not doing the entertainment moves. It's basic basketball. And if you don't understand basic basketball or like the skills of that, then you're gonna look for the entertainment.
Well, I also wonder if some of it isn't cultural also just in terms of women's roles. Because traditionally, the women could be cheerleaders. I've been watching this series on PBS called Miss Scarlet and the Duke. It's a British production that's set somewhere around 1890 or somewhere in there. The premise of the story is that Miss Scarlet, Eliza Scarlet, is a woman detective. Her father was a detective, and she kind of took over his business after he died. He actually was killed. He was murdered, and she helped to solve that murder, that issue. The Duke is somebody that they have a romantic interest in one another, and he's an inspector for Scotland Yard. So she keeps running into these problems that even with the women, when she says, I'm a female detective, they laugh at her. And it's like, you should be looking for a husband. So we still have that kind of mentality to some extent that is being passed down. It has changed, but there's still a bit of that, I think, at least with my generation and with things are opening up, but there's still this thing that women are trying to struggle. I was listening to something this morning also on NPR. They were talking about in Ukraine, women are learning how to drive big trucks. And one of the issues that they were facing is that would they be taking a man's job? So we still have that kind of mentality in different parts of the world, and even to some extent here that just there are people that it's gotten ingrained in them, and they may not understand all the reasons why they feel that way, but there are certain things that is a woman's place, or that just unconsciously we think that men should be doing and women should not.
When you said those words, it made my eye twitch. I'm sorry. A woman's place. It really made my eye twitch.
What's wrong with a woman's place?
I think also, too, there's a stigma attached to women in sports because the perception is, and it is true, not everybody, but a large percentage of women in sports are members of the LGBTQ community. So that, I think that weighs heavily, probably more heavily than anything else. I mean, I remember when Dawn Staley, when her team won the championship, she was asked about transgender athletes, and she said, let them play, and she got slammed in social media just for making that statement. So I think that stigma weighs heavily, too, on how they're perceived, how they're treated, how they're paid or not,
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point, definitely. I think there's also a fallacy to the idea that, women's sports, you know, that it's, well, they don't make enough money, so we can't pay them in that much and all that kind of stuff. The women's U.S. soccer team has dominated and has won so many championships. And the men's soccer team? Not so much. I was trying to find the right word. Not so much. But still, you know, what they get and how they're treated compared to the women's soccer team, who has brought home gold for us so many times. You know, it has to be more than just they're not generating enough money. So I think definitely what you mentioned is part of it with the perception that most of these women are part of the LGBTQ community, and just the fact that they're women. That, you know, again, there's a certain perception that there's more value in men doing the same thing that women do.
But are you saying that the economic part or consideration should not be a part of what happens with this?
No, I'm not saying that. I definitely understand, you know, the bottom line. We are a capitalist country, and so the bottom line does affect a lot of what we do. But I think sometimes they use that to mask all the other stuff. You know, they put it out front that it's all about economics, and it's not all about economics, because you can build those sports up and build the women's sports up to make that kind of money. I mean, you see it's starting to happen, but it could have been happening sooner, I think.
So how do we change this? I mean, we've watched over the last 150 years or so, for example, with changes in race and how people are treated in terms of race. And it's taken a long time to get to where we are now. And even now, I think most people would agree that we're far from being on parity or equity when it comes to people of color. But I also, because I'm in a school, and I've worked in private schools most of my life, I've seen where the kids coming up are getting like different messages about what's acceptable and how you work with people and what things should be. And I'm seeing a shift with younger kids, especially where things of race or when it comes to gender roles, that many of them are feeling like it's not fair and that we need to do something different. How do we do this, that we get this in the larger society, and how do we do this with ourselves from a spiritual point of view about making that shift?
That's a good question. I was going to say something that some of the young people say, but it...
Say it.
Say it.
They said, let the old folk die off. Is what they say.
But you know, to some extent, to some extent,
the consciousness, I guess, is what they're in essence saying.
If you take a look in the Bible, we have the story of Moses leading the Israelites up to the Promised Land, and it wasn't until the last person that lived in Egypt died out that they were able to get into the Promised Land. And so, you know, maybe it's not literally the old people dying out, but that old way of thinking.
Yeah, definitely. You were going to say something when I interrupted.
I lost my train of thought, so sorry. Not on that one. But as we're kind of talking about that, I want to shift.
Okay.
Can we shift?
Hey,
is this a good time to
audience for us to shift?
Or do you guys have
the audience
something?
Said we could shift. If you'd like to, we can.
Because I wanted to. You were kind of talking about something that you brought up interesting about when you said the detective took over her father's business, right? And that's something I think we all, if we develop something or build a skill, we want our children to come after us, right? We want them to be able to follow in our footsteps.
The interesting thing was that he didn't, because he was of the mindset that she should be married, but he also knew that she was a different type of child.
So he bringing a whole nother level to it that I wasn't going there with
but
it.
Go ahead with yours. But go with yours.
But I'm speaking of building a legacy, right? That parents building a legacy that they want their children to follow behind, or at least continue it, right? So we have LeBron James and Bronny James, right? LeBron James, we all know LeBron James, right? Everybody in here familiar with LeBron James. Maybe not so much Bronny James, but the name is familiar a little bit, right? So Bronny James was drafted into...
So who's Bronny James?
Bronny James is LeBron James' son. Sorry.
Oh,
okay. Thank you for that clarification. His oldest son, to be exact. And what has happened is LeBron James, well, I'm not even going to say that. Bronny James has been drafted to the Los Angeles Lakers. And by this happening, LeBron James has the opportunity to make history again, because this man has made lots of history throughout his basketball career. But by this drafting and by his son now being on the team, he has the opportunity to play with his son on the court. And this is the first time that that would ever happen in history. So the question that we're bringing up here, is this a matter of narcissism versus nepotism? Now, what is narcissism? Do we all know what narcissism is? Kind of, sort of, maybe? Let me give you a definition. So it's basically somebody, and let me go to who has an excessive interest or admiration of themselves. A narcissist, right? So LeBron James, do we see LeBron James as that? I guess maybe it depends on your perspective, right? And then nepotism is the practice among those of power and influence of favoring relatives, friends, or associates, especially in them giving them jobs. Well, I could see this being a true case of nepotism, right? I mean, he doesn't own the Lakers, but he is one of the
He's very influential.
Yeah, let's just say that. So in this case, as we're looking at this, is this a case of nepotism or narcissism? Is this a case of a father knowing he has this excellent career, knowing he has this skill, knowing he has this ability, teaching his son, building it into his son most of his life, clearly, or he wouldn't have been able to play at this level. Let's be clear about that. LeBron James has enough power, but I don't think he has that much power to put his son in the NBA if he didn't have some of the skills to do it. So is that wrong? Is it wrong for LeBron James to put his son in this position, to put him in a position to create more history? What's wrong with that? Nothing? We have a nothing from the audience?
It's the American way.
It's the American way? Some people see this as narcissism.
Well,
That too. It's the American way.
Narcissism is the American way?
Saying it's the American way doesn't mean anything. Slavery was the American way too. That doesn't make it right.
Right.
But slavery, nepotism, and narcissism played a role in slavery. It has that.
You want to come up to the mic so we can have the streaming audience?
To think that way in order to own people. They have to feel superior, which superior goes together in a person's mind that's a narcissist, and people who think in the back of their mind of nepotism too. So all that kind of goes together.
Is it that they think they're superior? I don't know. Narcissism doesn't mean you think you're superior, and nepotism doesn't think you mean you're superior. So let's think about the college admission scandal. They did all that because they knew their children were not superior. They wanted to make sure, they wanted to put their thumb on the scale to make sure that their kids got in. And so I understand that is the American way, but does that make that the right thing to do?
Maybe the word
doesn't
superior.
make it right to do. I'm not saying that because I said the American way. It's a lot of things America has done that's not cool. Just because it's that way doesn't mean that it's cool or bad, or it just is. America was built, to me, on a narcissist. You have to have a narcissist attitude in order to just enslave people just anyway. To me.
Maybe superior is not the right word. Maybe it's that I think my child is better, or that I think my child is special, and that they shouldn't have to endure through certain things. I think that what you're bringing about the college admission scandal, to some extent this is my baby. I see them as an extension of me, and I don't want them to not experience anything but the absolute best. So in a way, for the parents, it was about them. But you're right. They bought things for their children that they didn't necessarily earn or deserve, or they found a way to get around things so that they could make sure that their children were positioned to be able to get into either good-paying jobs or certain opportunities because of where they went to school. But I think that brings up a broader question, especially spiritually. How do we prepare our children to be the best they can be? And that if we have some degree of wealth or accomplishment, to be able to pass it on to them and know they ain't going to muck it up.
Well, I think that's definitely first, it's your own consciousness, right? You know, where is your consciousness and your belief that, you know, you don't have to take from others? Because I think part of it is the idea of there's lack of limitation. So I have to get this for my child because otherwise it won't be available to them. They have to get it because there's limited resources, right? So there's a consciousness of lack, I think, involved in that. And then there is, I think, and this is just my opinion because number one, I know I don't have any children. So I'm sure I have a different perspective from those who do have children. I lost my train of thought when I said that. See what happened?
It's been bouncing.
Reverend Chantel, you have children. How are you seeing this with what you are doing? And, you know, you've got two beautiful young ladies that, you know, you're raising, and they're right on the cusp of becoming quote unquote adults, but they're not quite there yet. What are you experiencing with this?
Interesting question. So one of the things, my husband and I have built a real estate company, and as we're getting older, we're like, well, who the heck is going to take this thing on once we're not here? We've purchased properties, we manage those properties, and the goal has always been to give them to the children. And that has been the conversation that I've always had with my children that are in the house. My oldest bonus son is not in the house. So we have conversation. He knows that we've built this real estate portfolio. He's older, but he hasn't been with us continually as my girls have. So with my younger children, it's been a conversation of mom and dad are building this for you. Yes, we have it. And we actually literally take them to the properties. They work in the properties. They've touched the properties. They've been to the properties. And it's been a consciousness of this is for you. This is something that we're leaving for you. We're not only leaving it for you, but we're leaving it also for your kids. So as we're leaving this for you, we need you to understand how to deal with it, how to maintain it, how to understand what it is, how to not sell it. And also now looking into ways, now their interest isn't in real estate. So this has been an interesting conversation that's come now. Because they're not interested in real estate. Neither one of them. One of them is a basketball player, and the other one's a drama.
Or at least not right now.
Right now. So the conversation has now been with me and Edward, okay, we put these in a trust. Who's going to run the trust? Because we don't want our kid, you know, these are for our kids. So it has really been right now building in with them the knowledge and the understanding that we're giving you a legacy that you can continue to build on with your children and with that can go further on, but past us, and building in that consciousness of there's no lack, there's no limitations. You have this available to you if you want to continue to move it forward.
So I'm going to be the devil's advocate a little bit here.
Okay, please do, because I need to think about all of this.
Is it, number one, is it fair to push on your kids something that they may or may not want, number one? And number two, are you potentially limiting them from the way that they can fully express themselves by trying to force them or direct them into something that may not be what they're best suited to do?
I would definitely be limiting if I'm forcing them into this, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And that's not what I'm doing at all. My goal with them is live what you want to do. What is your dream? What do you like to do? This is your side hustle. This is your side income. This is your, okay, let me make sure the trust is doing it. Okay, let me make sure that this is, you can hire people to run this. Mm-hmm. So that is the consciousness that I want them to know. You have this entity, this thing, because that's all it is a thing, right? That can provide you support. But by all means, live whatever your purpose is, because they have a purpose, and it's definitely not, it may not be real estate. And I can't make it be real estate. I see that clearly with my older child. It's not real estate. He's a chef. He don't want nothing to do with the properties, even though he's right there and could help us out. But that's not him. So I have to pour into him what he wants to do and then build this entity that I have in my mind, you know what I mean, that works for me and that's going to work for them to a way that it will move and not hamper them in their lives. Did that make sense?
It does. It does. And, I guess what I hear you saying is that, you want your kids to have a consciousness of wealth, regardless of whether they do it with the real estate or not, but that, you've been given something to work with and that you can build on it and make it more if you are mindful of what it is that you're doing, if you develop the skills and the knowledge to be able to handle it. You don't necessarily have to do it hands-on yourself, but you need to know how to manage this so that when you get somebody else involved, you're not going to get snookered.
Pretty much, yeah. And having the knowledge, you know what I mean, to be able to do that. Now, there's only one trustee, right? If y'all didn't know that, there's only one trustee. So there's one child that we have to look at to say, you're going to have to manage these other two, in essence. And that's just the conversation. They're young now. I have an older one and I have a younger one. So that's the conversations that we're having now as a family. How does this look going forward? And I think those are important conversations to have as a family. I don't think we enough have those conversations. I think all LeBron was trying to do was build his legacy for his son, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do for my children, build a legacy. Hopefully they ride with it and it provides them the money and the financial freedom that I see in the future. But at the end of the day, this is their path and their decisions.
So what do you think about people that, and I know that this doesn't apply to your situation, but I think the classic thing is that you've got somebody that owns a business. They have a child and the child's born with a silver spoon in their mouth, so to speak. And the child is spoiled, don't know they're behind from their elbow. And they bring the child in to work in the company, and child's like, you're working in the company and you've got to teach this person who may be incompetent the things that you know, and then one day you're going to be working for them, not because they've done anything in particular or because they know what they're doing, but just simply they were born into the right family.
Again, I think that has to do with the consciousness of each person involved, and it sounds like you're going about teaching them the consciousness of abundance and wealth and all of that kind of stuff, and that's wonderful. I think sometimes when people are like, well, I built this business and I want my child to be able to take over this business or want them to have that, I think that's limiting because it's not about the consciousness of owning that business. It's about the consciousness of abundance. And so it may mean that when mom and dad transition, that child sells that business. But the money that they get from that business, they have the consciousness of abundance to go ahead and continue the generational wealth. But sometimes the parents have worked so hard on this particular business and done so much and been through so many things to build this business that this is the only way they see their child having that wealth and generational wealth and abundance. And that's limiting.
Absolutely.
Right? So that consciousness of wealth and abundance is still not there, even though they have the idea that they do want their child to have generational wealth, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's limiting when it's like, well, it has to be through this business, and then you guilt your child into, how much work I did to build that business?
Right.
When it's not about the business, right? It's about the consciousness of abundance.
Yeah, because the answer, I heard you say something about how you tell the kids, we're building this for you, and it's like, well, I didn't ask you to do that.
Yeah, and that's probably, they will say that to me.
I didn't ask for it.
Because we have raised them to be very clear on what they want. You know what I mean? So they're clear in telling us if we are putting something on us, well, that's not really what I was thinking that I wanted to do. Because I've mentioned, hey, you could be a real estate agent at 18, and then by 21, you could be a broker. Yeah, no, Mom, that's not really what I want to do. Okay, well, okay. You know what I mean? And I have to accept that. And like you said, if their path goes a different way, by all means, I want to at least build the prosperity consciousness in them that whatever they do, they're okay. The way that they want to be okay,
Oh, I was just going to jump in on it, but y'all covered it really nice. I'm happy for LeBron and him to do what he needed to do for Bronny.
Yep.
This gets personal for me in a sense. Back when I was in the tech industry for work, and there was a lot of money out there for us to run around and install all of this stuff. When the money and the contracts, so-called, ran out, all of us who were not related to somebody who owned the company were laid off. So it's not even about a daughter or a son or a legacy like that. But it was like, my brother-in-law, he a dummy, but he married my sister, so I gotta make sure my brother-in-law got money coming in because
Right.
he's taking care of my sister or something like that. And the rest of us kind of had to fend for ourselves. So I love the fact that you put your info in a trust and what you said about the consciousness, because it is about the consciousness. Too many times, there's other, best way I could say it, there are people that come here from other countries, live 3-4 generations deep in a home.
Yes.
Because somebody told them there's an American dream to come get it, but we need to come together. They've been taught to work together, to be nepotism, use nepotism to grow. I don't know what the other word would be, but yeah, to use nepotism to grow that business.
Yes.
And stuff. And it's passed in the family, whether it's a vehicle to support their dreams or what have you, but they've been taught this is the family wealth, this is how we do it, this is how we build it. So most African Americans, Black Americans, Brown Americans, BIPOC, whatever, what is it? Yeah.
BIPOC.
You got it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, BIPOC, yeah. BIPOC.
Another label.
Huh? Well,
Another label.
Another label.
It's another label, but many brown and indigenous people. That's what
It
it is.
stands for Brown, Indigenous, and People of Color. That's
And
right.
people of color.
It's not
It's
another
just-
label. It's just a
It's just a
acronym.
combined.
Say all of those names.
Yeah, it's a combined thing, but for whatever reason, most of the BIPOCs built this country, but the BIPOCs don't necessarily get to enjoy the wealth of the country like some other folks. So now that we are, people are saying, "Oh man, we got to change the rules again." So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, also I found in
Can you pass,
it's,
Karen? Can you pass the?
I guess I say I can come up. I guess when I say the American way, it's kind of like in politics. You can look in local, city, state, and their positions of political that they pass down to their spouses, that they pass to their children. And that's what I mean by it's kind of like the American way, because it's kind of ingrained in different laws.
Yeah, I don't know that it necessarily is uniquely American, because I think that there are other cultures, particularly in Europe, that do it where you have somebody that you know, and they get you a job, and especially civil servant jobs, that there's a lot of patronage, and it may not necessarily be nepotism in the traditional sense, but that you got to know somebody to get a certain job. And, so I think that more than it being the American way, I think that there's a lot of just, this is how human beings do things. And to Reverend Andrea's point, it's the idea of scarcity, that there's not enough to go around, and that in order to get to where I have to get to, either I've got to have somebody help me to do it, or there's got to be some way that we do it that we stick together and it becomes a we versus them type of a thing, as opposed to I can develop the consciousness to build this myself and do what I need to do. I guess what I found interesting with what you said, Karen, with, I got to look out for my brother, for those people that had to look for something, in that instance, it's a matter of, is my consciousness that this job is my source of supply, or that God is my source, and regardless of whether I have this job or not, I'm going to be fine.
Right.
And it doesn't make it right either.
No, but as the saying goes, the world is not fair. So what you going to do?
Exactly.
Well, I think that kind of segues into something else that we wanted to talk about. So during the presidential debate, one of the candidates, I heard a couple of groans.
Yeah.
One of the candidates made a comment about how illegal aliens streaming across the border were taking Black and Hispanic jobs. So, what is a Black job? I mean, it's like, okay, I'm hearing this and it's like, well, ain't none of them been messing with my job. What's a Black job?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
What racists
I didn't hear.
think of it?
I didn't hear
Yeah,
what
you
you
gotta
said.
replace.
Can you just take the microphone so people don't have to get up? So people don't have to get up. They could just. We could just
What I'm
pass the
saying
microphone.
is that a black job is what racists think a black job is.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I mean, not necessarily white people, but
A racist.
Mm-hmm. But I think it goes beyond that, because it brought up to mind for me, like, there's a lot of things that, I mean, I know why this was said. It really was to drive a wedge between, you know, people of color and create more of the us versus them type of thing, and to create fear. But what it brings up to me is, how am I defining myself? I remember when the term African American started to come in vogue, and I didn't refer to myself that way. I preferred the term black, because, at least for my generation or how I came up, I knew what you meant when you said black. You know, I was listening to the radio one time and they were talking about this black Canadian player, and African American was starting to come into vogue, but he was Canadian. And the radio personality is like, well, he's a Canadian African American. And I'm like, you know, you guys are trying to. What is it with these doggone labels? It's like, you know, as a people, we keep going through trying to redefine ourselves. You know, we went through being colored, and then being Negroes, and then being black, and then some of the terms got recycled. And it's like, why are we so invested in these labels instead of us defining who we are, what our jobs are, how we're going to show up? And for me, that's like a really, you know, it goes back to who we are spiritually when we decide why it is that we're here on this earth. Who am I, and how do I define myself, regardless of all these labels that they want to put on you? What y'all think?
Well, the challenge that I have is just the label within itself. Like, you wouldn't call a job a white job. I mean, that's just, you know what I mean? Like, we, at least, yeah. So, I just, it goes back to somebody's perception. And I do agree with your comment, it's more of, I feel like, a racist perception, because if you're labeling something as a black job, what does that look like? Every job that a black person has? Or are you saying there are specific jobs that only black people can do? Because in my job, which is the federal government, it's black people everywhere. So is that a black job, or are you saying that only, I don't even want to put the label to it, because I don't know what a black job is. And for me, I don't have a label of a black job. It doesn't have a definition, because I don't put colors to jobs. I don't look at people and say, you're a black, you know, we define people as these labels. And that's what we're doing now. We're defining a job as only black people can have this job, or only white people can have this job. And it's a job. You know what I mean? When you look at job descriptions, do you see race anywhere in a job description? One, it's illegal to do that.
Right, you can't do it
anymore.
It goes back to the show that I was telling you about, because it's a similar thing, though. You know, it's gender. But, you know, there were certain jobs that were deemed acceptable or proper for men to have, and others for women to have. And, I kind of knew what he meant, although it's like demented and out of line, especially nowadays, that the idea is that, well, you only can do these low-level, low-paying jobs that nobody else wants. The truth of the matter is, a lot of these immigrants are doing jobs that nobody wants to do. Yeah. You know, they're not black jobs or Hispanic jobs. Nobody wants to do them. But they're willing to do it.
I just don't see color. You know what I mean? So, and I think that's just my challenge in this.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. That gave her a little, okay, go ahead. Please go ahead.
And I don't know how you meant that.
Okay.
So that's not for you. But when people say, I don't see color to defend themselves, I think that is another, it's a trigger for me, okay? Because I see color. I appreciate every color. And I'm not going to sit here and not see somebody's color, because everybody's color is part of it's part of everything that they are, right? And I can appreciate you being a person of Caribbean descent, or of African descent, or of European descent, or whatever. And it's the difference that makes you who you are, and I can appreciate you for that and understand the difference. When you say I don't see color, you're trying to cover, I feel like you're trying to cover some insecurity that you have, or some thought that you have, that if I say I see somebody's color, then, you know, they'll see how I am prejudiced towards a particular person or not.
I can see how you can think that.
Yeah, I've got a different feel about it.
And the reason why I have that feel is because
I just want to ask a question.
Go ahead.
When you said that, because I understand what
That's what I'm saying. I didn't know what she meant. That's why I said that. I prefaced that. I didn't know what she meant.
Were you just saying in reference to jobs?
Yes, in job. Well, okay. description of things.
Okay.
So when I grew up, and I can't say that I don't see people colors. I do see people's colors, because we grow up and that's what we see. But I don't describe things as a black way or a white way. And the reason why is because I grew up with a white mom and a black dad. And I grew up speaking proper English, what they say, right? And when I would be around my black friends, they would say, "You talk like a white girl." What does talking like a white girl mean? Like, I talked proper English. So from that point forward, I never wanted the label of a color to describe something. Never was the way that I saw things, because people would describe me as, and you're hitting a point. You know what I mean? I have a sensitivity to that, because I don't describe things in that way, because people would describe it to me. You talk like a white girl. You have hair like a black girl. You know what I mean? Like labeling things as a color. And I'm like, no, it's my hair. No, this is the way I talk. It is not defined by a race. So, but I got what you're saying with that. Yeah. But that's not my.
That. Like I said, it wasn't towards you. It was just that when
trigger,
I hear that, you know,
I can see that.
You know, because I do see a lot of people Go ahead, Reverend Terry.
So I guess my question is, how do we use our spirituality or our spiritual tools to define who we are, how we're going to show up, and not let society or the world consciousness put things on us?
Well, it's our own consciousness. Because we can't control anybody else, right? It's how we respond. But we can only respond based on our own level of consciousness, right? If we know who we are, then, you know, that comment about black jobs, although however ignorant it may be, really doesn't apply to me in my job. You know, it doesn't apply to how I look at anybody else in their job or anything like that, or how, you know, whatever job anybody has, every job is important. Every job has to get done. And, you know, it's not for me to say who should and should not do it, or, you know, or put a label on who does that. But you can't get to that point if you don't have your own consciousness, your own understanding of who you are, and that actually we are all one, regardless of who's doing what job.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that instead of us being so externally focused on things, we need to decide who we are. That's not for somebody else to tell us. And the more that we start coming up with these labels and embracing these labels, the more separation that we put between ourselves and other people. And it's not to say that some of them aren't important, but in some instances, like you say that they say you sound like a white girl, that's kind of in a way saying you don't belong with us, or that you don't fit in, or that you're not part of who we are. I used to get that when I grew up where part of my life was in the South and part of it was in the North. And especially when I was in the South, when I first got there, it's like, boy, you talk proper. You know, because I had a New York accent. And then when I, stayed there for a while and got a bit of a Southern drawl, when I would come back to New York, boy, you sound country. But, I think... I say this a lot, Reverend Sharon doesn't like it too much, but we all like looking in the mirror and hearing the sound of our own voices. And that may not be literally, but we like to be around people that think like us, that sound like us, that look like us. And the way that they look like us may vary depending on our consciousness. Sometimes it's skin. Sometimes it's that you dress a certain way or that you present yourself in a certain way. And that may transcend race or ethnicity. But, you know, you want people that think like you, or in general, we like to be around people that think like us, that speak like us. And it may be a Southern drawl or a New York accent, or it may be the way that we refer to immigrants, or the way that we refer to the economy and the country and what political party that we belong to. And it all ends up being divisive unless we are conscious of what we're doing, that we recognize that despite these differences, we're still all one.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
Yep.
Well said.
So what's next on our agenda?
Ooh, okay, so I don't know if you all know, and I apologize, I don't have the full name of the movie, but it's the Possum Trot movie, and that is about the community that that adopted children that were in the foster care system, and the community decided to go ahead and take on these children instead of allowing them to languish in foster care. So there's a movie out about it. It's,
Sound of Hope.
Thank you, Sound of Hope. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And Letitia Wright, the Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. She was an executive producer on this movie, and she got involved and foregoed her salary in the movie to make sure the movie got done, because she felt so strongly about what these people were doing in this community. Well, she found out that the rest of the production team and the people that she's working with got involved with the Daily Wire, and the Daily Wire is the distribution company for this movie. Now, the Daily Wire is what people call extreme right-wing organization. And so when she found out that happened, she has chosen to distance herself from this project.
Well, I don't know if it was from the project, but she definitely distanced herself from the Daily Wire for the things that I read. And, you know, for me, it brought up a couple of things. I watched a couple of videos last night where there was somebody from the Daily Wire, and they were, you know, doing one of the things that I hate about the radical left, and this is what they do. And I don't think that she really disavowed the film, but it was like the Daily Wire. And I guess my question is, when you're doing something that is of value and somebody or something becomes associated with it that's antithetical to your values and belief system, how do you handle it? Because she still believes in the movie. Mm-hmm. And I think that was one of the things that the person from, I think it was, what was his name? Ed Shapiro or somebody? Ben Shapiro was saying that, you know, regardless of political view, that the story, regardless of that, was worthwhile to get out there because it was a group of people. As I understand it, it was about a bishop in Texas. He and his wife started adopting kids, and they kept adopting kids, and they got the community involved. And that this is something that we want to encourage, regardless of whatever your political persuasion might be. And to some extent, I can understand that we get so divisive about who's involved with people. But on the other hand, I have to ask myself, is somebody going to use this in a way that's going to be really contrary to what my views might be? Or, you know, that I imagine that Letitia Wright is like, I'm going to have my name associated with something that I've got these people that are very much diametrically opposed to what I view. Mm-hmm. So I guess the question for me is that when we've got, you know, one group here and one group here, how do we take out the noise and come together on something, or can we come together on something where we all can agree on it?
Well, I don't know. In this case, I mean, I'm wondering, so the Daily Wire is producing or distributing. They're distributing and marketing the movie. Mm-hmm. which means they're helping in promoting the movie. I don't think in any way, I saw an Instagram post that she wanted to disassociate herself being affiliated with the Daily Wire because of their views and because of her views. But I feel like if they are, and I guess that's one of those slippery slopes, right, to be on. Like, if you have these beliefs, but you want this movie put out, and this money is coming here, and the beliefs of this company may not be in line with your personal beliefs, but it will still help you promote and put out this product and this movie that she has. I don't know. I think, I don't see the challenge in that, in the fact that they are just promoting the movie. And it doesn't appear that they are, I guess, necessarily putting their views because the movie's made. And is it the platform that she thinks is going to be promoted on? And then I was trying to just understand her challenge in it, because you have someone who's helping you promote this. And yes, you don't believe in them. So I guess it was just a little confusing for me. And I just felt like, I don't know. I don't see, it's my conflict.
I'm conflicted too.
Conflict.
Yeah, it's like,
I'm on that side.
how do you, if you have these, I'm not really familiar with the Daily Wire, but
so
if
Candace Owen was associated with them.
Okay. So if you have these views that are in opposition to this, what this project is about, what's your agenda? Well, I mean, why are you supporting something that you don't really believe in, meaning the Daily Wire? What I mean,
Well,
so
I
it
think
makes me, it raises a question for me.
They say that
what's
they
the
do.
agenda?
They say they do believe in it because it shows an instance. I think virtually everybody can agree that we've got a problem in this country with kids being in the system and not getting adopted. And it shows a group of people that happen to be black people that are doing something about it, something positive. One would think that it's something that, regardless of whatever your political views are, whether you identify as conservative, moderate, or liberal, that what these people did was noteworthy, commendable, and something that we'd like to promote, at least on the surface of what I know about the movie. So that's...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So I wondered, is it like money laundering? You know how a group will associate something good and like, oh, but we do this and we promote that to kind of clean up their image, though they're doing scuzzy things. So maybe she's concerned that they're going to use this film to say that we're really not that bad because we support things like this. You should still, hear what we have to say.
That possibly may be.
What's the agenda?
And I think it's a couple of things. So she didn't know. She wasn't told until it was already done, signed, papers sealed, that they were doing that. And as an executive producer, she should have been in on the conversation. Not to say that the outcome would have been any different, but she should have been in on the conversation. And so I'm sure there's that issue, right? But then also, I haven't been able to find a story or understanding on this. They gonna make money. So does she want to be involved in a situation where the Daily Wire is making money, right? So she's she's promoting this film or whatever, but in return, they're promoting it, right? The distribution, they're not doing it just out of the goodness of their heart. They're going to make money, and that money's going to go to further what the Daily Wire believes, which is diametrically opposed to what she believes. So what is her decision? Does she do that and so that they can continue, so that they can make money? Or, you know what I mean? So I don't think it's just black and white, an issue of, well, they're going to promote, and since they're going to promote, don't we want everybody to be promoted? I think it's more than that. We can't say, this is a very smart woman, it's, in the business and all that kind of stuff. So it can't be just as simple as, well, since you believe in the project, don't you want the project out there? There's other things, like you said, other motives and agendas that may be, right?
Well, that I can see that. And maybe the thing for her to have turned around and done, especially when responding to, the political stuff as well, I did this for free. Will you distribute it for free? Will you take the
But I think
proceeds?
it was said and done before she knew it.
She
Yeah.
couldn't even
no,
bring that up as an opportunity because of signed, sealed papers.
No, I get that,
You know?
but I'm saying now in response to what they're putting out about how they're bringing, the radical left is bringing in these things and they are being divisive. It's like, well, you know what? I believe in the project and I did it for free. Are you willing to distribute this for free? Are you willing to take the money that you're going to make off of this and put it back into something that's not going to be political, that may that either you'll lower your distribution fee so that you make nothing on it, or either that you'll put it into something that has to do with adoption or something that we can agree on.
And we don't know. Maybe she did do that and they said no.
Yeah, we don't know.
You know?
Yeah.
And the thing that's also interesting to me is she quietly was distancing herself. The Daily Wire is the one that started saying radical left, whatever, whatever.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it could have been something that was quiet, that kept quiet.
Yeah, she put out something on X, I think.
You know, but she wasn't trying to make a big deal about it, you know, as the Daily Wire does. But they are a propaganda machine. The Daily Wire is all about that kind of stuff. So, So moving past the particulars of this situation, how do we, sometimes we get involved in something that we're very passionate about, but in some instances there's a conflict to it in our own values. So how do we handle those things that may happen in our lives?
Can you wake up at the end of the day and still look at yourself? Yeah, like if you.
How do you know that? How do you know what gives you peace?
Especially if they're two values that are high values or important values to you, but they're in conflict with one another. How do you do that? Because values at the end of the day are subjective. And if you have a value that you created, you can change it. Question is, do you change it, or how do you go through that process? Especially as a spiritual being creating your life. How do you go through that process of weighing, I've got this value that's really important to me, and this one that's very important to me, and they're kind of, because of the circumstances, in conflict. Which way do I go with it?
Go ahead. You don't walk all the way over there. You done did all that?
I got your arm too.
Come on.
That's because this mic wasn't but it's not. So how, when we're conflicted, you pull out the spiritual toolkit, whatever's in our spiritual toolkit. And like Reverend Chantel said, if you look in the mirror and you don't recognize yourself for something, that means that doesn't work. But
how do you pull out the spiritual toolkit? I mean, walk me through how you would do this if you've got something that, like, you've got one thing that's very important to you and another thing that's very important to you, and they come into conflict.
After I have all the information that I think that's available, I have to get still and I have to process it. In meditation, in my quiet time, look to whatever spiritual tool, be it the Bible or others. Meditation and devotional kind of information that I would use, and then work from there, because I also know when we let things from the outside get to us, internally our bodies get out of sync. We break, our skin breaks out, our hair falls out,
blood pressure goes up.
Blood pressure goes up, masses come from nowhere. It's just like the body's like, hey, hold up, this is not right. And then because I love to hike or whatever, I would get out in nature too, and probably run or hug a tree or sit by some water. More so sit by some water for me, and stick my feet in or something like that. But I have to release it. I have to.
And this is, I guess, for anybody. Do we get to a point that we're like, you know what? I'm never going to be completely 100% peace at this, but this is the best that I can do in this situation?
I don't know.
No,
I have to be. You have to get to a point of peace, and I think that is through the practice and paying attention. For me, it's paying attention to my body and my feelings, like you're saying. If something doesn't feel right, I have an anxiousness about it. You know what I mean? Like there's something not sitting right with me, in that decision or in what I'm dealing with. If it's conflicting and I'm sitting and I'm meditating and I'm like, man, I can't get this off of me, it won't go away. That's my answer.
But does that mean that? But does that mean that one of your values may shift in the process of doing this, or it's? I can't think of anything really specific right now, but I mean, if you've got these two very strong things that conflict with one another, do you create in your mind that, well, if this set of circumstances comes into play, then value A wins, but if it's a different set of circumstances, value B wins?
No, I go off of the feelings. And how am I feeling about this? You know what I mean? What is it? Is it bringing me anxiousness when I go this way?
But what if you do what you think is the right thing, but it's still bringing you angst?
Well, sometimes there's growth and change. And then when you're changing and growing, there's anxiousness with that, right? Anytime we're changing and we're growing, there's a little bit of uncertainty, right? But there's still a peace with it. Like there's still a knowing this is the right way, this is the right thing that I'm supposed to do. I may be a little, okay, I don't know the end result, but I feel peaceful about it. You know what I mean? Like I have a feeling of, I don't know exactly what the result is going to be, but I'm okay with making this decision. And whatever the end result is, I'm still okay with making this decision. Whereas sometimes if you make the decision and you're like, oh, I hope that don't happen. I really hope that don't. But that's not, you know what I mean? It's not the right way. It's not where you should have went, because you're negating it as soon as you made it. And if you find reasons to negate it, then you're not in alignment. You're not in peace. It's not comfortable. It's uncomfortable. Growth is uncomfortable, but you're still peaceful at it. You know what I mean? If you're growing at something and it's something that you should be doing, it's not oh my God, an anxious thing. If I'm making sense. Sometimes I feel like I ramble. Stop rambling.
An example of that where I think, Reverend Terry, where you were saying, if you're growing and changing, like there's still angst that comes with that. So how do you move forward with that discomfort? And how do you know the difference between if it's growth or an angst or something that's just totally in opposition to your values? So I had a situation. When we were building our gazebo. So I had to go through and get approval from the HOA, and I wasn't sure what about everything that I needed to do as far as the county was concerned, but I thought I was doing everything that I knew to do. So I reached out to a friend of mine that is very well versed in the construction business and whatnot. So I asked her advice. I said, what do you think I should do about this? Because the structure's already built. Now I got to go back and get these approvals at each stage of the building process from the county. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm not going to tear it down. So how do I? So her advice to me was, look, it's already up. Do it anyway. Don't even worry about it. No. Everything in my body just like froze up. I'm thinking, no, that's not how I do things. If there are rules or guidelines or processes in place, I was raised to do just that. You follow the rules. You go by the guidelines. You do what's right. You do the right thing, because I don't want anybody coming back to me. Excuse me, Miss Strickland. We're tearing this thing down because you didn't do A, B, C, and D. So with that, there was some growth and change and discomfort in that, because I had to just jump through hoops to get this thing approved after the fact. So Linda, she was like, you just gonna have to do what you gotta do. I know it's uncomfortable. I know you don't want to go through this process, but this is the right thing to do. And it was, there was an inspector in Fayette County that I was ready to tear it down myself, because I'm like, dude, really? Because he was just, I felt like it was some other things going on. We're not even going to get into that right now, but I was like, okay, at the end of the day, I want to get this thing approved, pass these inspections, when I tell you I was stretched in so many different ways, and there was some growth involved, but I knew it was the right thing to do. Because if I had done, gone the other route, I mean, everything I just got all kinds of checks in my spirit, and I was like, that goes against my values, but I knew this was the right thing to do over here, but it created a lot of angst, discomfort. There was a lot of growth involved, and I was able to sleep at night because I knew I was doing, going through the proper steps to get this thing approved. And because, I just didn't I wasn't trying to draw any negative energy to, I was like, I'm not trying to do all that. So that was the difference for me.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Appreciate that. I think with everything, with all of these different topics that we've talked about and everything that everyone shared, I'm grateful for everyone's ideas and thoughts and opinions. We have to have consciousness of self. We have to know who we are. And it's not something that we need to start working on when we're in the midst of trouble or we're in the midst of challenge. We need to be doing that constantly, every day, all day, checking in with ourselves, defining that growth, doing the mirror work, doing all these tools, and knowing who we are and getting centered and grounded with the truth for us, so that when we encounter these different situations, we have the trust in ourselves, the confidence, and the strength to make whatever decisions that are going to bring us the peace that we need as we move through each and every situation, because we're living in this human experience, there are going to be situations constantly, and you have to be at peace. And I pray for Letitia Wright that she chose that was her peace, regardless of the attacks that she's experiencing. I hope for LeBron James and for Bronny James in particular that they're both at peace with whatever decisions and how they continue to move forward with that. With women in sports and with women in this country in general, I hope that we're able to find the peace to move through and accomplish things and break the ceilings and face whatever challenges we need to face. And as people of color, BIPOC, or whatever we call them ourselves these days, that, that we get grounded in the truth of who we are, to know that we all are going to go through these different experiences. We're all one, and we all just need to be grounded in truth so that we can face it, and things will... The idea for that is that things will work out in divine order.
So
Absolutely. And so it is. And so it is.
So thank you guys so much. That was a meaty conversation. And everybody done jumped in. KK almost broke the microphone trying to get her thoughts in, but that was wonderful. I always enjoy these conversations and the different perspectives that everybody brings. So we have just a few announcements for you before we get on out of here. Whitewater guys, we giving ourselves permission to have some fun.
You're not moving.
Have some fun.
Have some
Terry,
fun.
There you go. Thank you. So we are going to be enjoying some whitewater rafting at Whitewater Express down in Columbus, Georgia this coming Saturday. We're checking in at 10:30 a.m. It's only $36.95. We've already reached the threshold to get that discount. So all you need to do is go ahead and, get in touch with the Whitewater Express. Let them know you're with the Living Truth 365 group, and then you'll be able to get that rate. Join us at 10:30. Even if you're not going to whitewater raft, there's going to be some folk down there that are just down there to enjoy the day. Downtown Columbus is beautiful. There's a lot to do. You could even bring the kiddies if you want and all that kind of stuff. So join us. Whether you get on the water, which I would do because it's hot, or if you just want to hang out with us and have a good time, it's not too far away, about an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on where you are in the metro Atlanta area, down to Columbus. And let's go ahead and give ourselves permission to have some fun. Reverend Terry?
Just to interject something. So this is an event that will take place rain or shine. So just so that you're aware, particularly if we've got light rain that day, they're going to still go out to do the whitewater rafting, because they're going to consider whatever rain that you're getting, you're going to get just as wet being in the boat with the whitewater rafting. So this is rain or shine.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
And also, for those that did sign up already, there is a waiver or a release form that you should have received already. You need to make sure you fill that out and bring that with you to turn in, because you're going to need to give them that before you'll be able to get on the boat.
Thank you for that. All righty. Moving on. So as a reminder, because we're going to be wiped out from the whitewater rafting.
Yeah.
So there's no service next Sunday. This is your Sunday to take that opportunity to be still, to get grounded, or do other things, clean your house, relax, rest from the whitewater rafting, whatever it is you're going to do. Go ahead and take that time next Sunday. So there'll be no service here, so don't come looking for us, because we won't. We won't be here. Okay. And then, guys, look who we haven't seen speak in a minute.
Hey. Hey.
The Reverend Terry Thompson will be bringing our Journey in Truth lesson on Sunday, August 4th. You do not want to miss it. He always brings a wonderful Journey in Truth lesson, having us thinking about things and helping us to get grounded and expanding consciousness.
And I will be talking about being childlike.
Ooh.
Give yourself permission to get that inner child out. And that's going to set up things for the rest of the month. I think we've got on August 10th. You'll get to that in the announcements, but that's going to be an opportunity for us to come together and be childlike and play games.
Childlike. Okay. Thanks, Reverend Terry. All righty. So, guys, this is a time when we can go ahead and participate in the gift of circulation. So if you have Tithely, you can go ahead and go through Tithely, and these are the directions for it. You can text that number. You'll get a link. You can create your account, and then guess what? You can participate in the gift of circulation anytime, 24/7, 365. All righty. Or you can go through Cash App, and our Cash App handle is $LT365. $LT365. A lot of people are very familiar with Cash App and how to use that. And then Zelle. You can become a sustaining member for Living Truth 365 through Zelle. You can set up Living Truth 365 as a payee using the livingtruth365@gmail.com email address. Create a payment marked with repeating payment, and contact your bank for specifics if you want to go ahead and go that route and become a sustaining member. We'd be very appreciative of that. As much as we do the things that we want to do and enjoy the fun that we want to enjoy, we do have bills that need to be paid to make sure that we can maintain this community and do the things that we want to do. So we would appreciate that if you are willing to become a sustaining member. So I'm going to give everybody a moment to go ahead and do their gift of circulation, however they're going to do it. Cash App, Zelle, if you need an envelope or what have you, if you want to just drop a check, get with one of the ministers will tell you where to do that. However you want to go ahead and participate in this circulation. We receive that.
All of it.
We receive that. Yes. I hear the little
The tick.
I hear the little beep, beep, beep. Tick, tick, ticks. All right. Beeps and ticks. And we call it the gift of circulation, of course, right? Because it's giving and receiving. As you give, you receive. As you receive, you give. Definitely be a part of this, because we are all one. All one. And heirs to the abundance and prosperity of the universe. All right. We're still looking down. Oh, that means they putting extra zeros, right? Because they're looking at it with some extra zeros. Extra zeros on there. We appreciate that extra zero. Put that comma in there too if you want. All righty. So now we're going to go ahead and do our gift of circulation together. Let's repeat this 3 times.
There is no lack or limitation. There is only infinite abundance. And through my giving, I tap into the infinite flow, and I am one with it.
Again?
There is no lack or limitation. There is only infinite abundance. And through my giving, I tap into the infinite flow, and I am one with it.
One last time.
There is no lack or limitation. There is only infinite abundance. And through my giving, I tap into the infinite flow,
and I am one with it. And this one 3 times to seal the deal.
I am tapping infinite prosperity and sharing. I am tapping infinite prosperity and sharing. I am tapping infinite prosperity and sharing. And so it is.
I forgot to give this message out, so I do apologize. I spoke with the meditation group that we do meditation on Thursday, and we are taking a hiatus until September. Okay? We're taking a hiatus until September. I'm doing a lot of traveling for work, and everybody's either getting their kids ready for school or enjoying the last bits of summer. So we are going to go ahead and go on hiatus. So we'll go ahead and send that message out to everybody, but we will be back in September strong. But that doesn't mean that you stop your meditation practice. Make sure you get still. I would say more than once a week, but at least once a week. Okay. All right. And then the Nora Foundation, that is Dr. Rocco's foundation. And you can participate and learn more about the Aramaic School Light every second Saturday of each month from 1 to 3. It's $30 per class. You can learn so much from the Aramaic perspective.
She's finished. She's working on it.
Go ahead and do that. And then he also has online classes.
I don't know if I have enough time to get there or not.
And that's a
to get there and back in time. In the car. So what do you think? Should I try to go or no?
Not Gmail. All right. And then, guys, don't forget our Friday breakthrough calls. That's a great time for us to check in, see how we're doing with breaking our barriers, supporting and lifting each other up, and just getting advice and support if we need it on that Friday calls. They're only 15 minutes long at 7 a.m., and this is the phone number and the access code so that you can join us for that. And then, save these 2 dates. Save these 2 dates. Save these 2 dates. These 2 dates, you should save. Did I mention that these 2 dates you should save? Save these 2 dates. Okay. Saturday, August 10th, you're going to join us. We're going to have a game day. We're just going to have fun, guys. We're going to be playing some bones, running some Bostons, having some ping pong tournaments, playing jumping double dutch, whatever we're going to do. We're just going to have fun on that day. And actually 2 of our community members have opened up their home to us. So we're going to be sending you more information. You're going to be getting an RSVP. I'm just going to say this up front now. You're going to get an RSVP. You need to RSVP. If you don't RSVP, we're going to assume that you're not coming. You have to RSVP. 2 of our members are opening up their homes, so we really need to know who's coming, who's not coming. So, it's imperative that you go ahead and RSVP, or then we'll go ahead and allow you to disinvite yourself. So just letting you know up front. We want to be kind. We want to make sure that they'll invite us back someday. So we want to be right about this.
Get your name on the list.
Get your name on the list so we know. Okay. And then on Sunday, August 25th, that's Anniversary Sunday, guys. Anniversary Sunday. So we're going to do something fun. It's the month of being childlike. So we're just going to have fun this month. So those 2 dates are dates that we want you to go ahead and save. Did I mention that those are the 2 dates we want you to save? So go ahead and save those 2 dates. Okay, wonderful. More information will be coming out soon so you all know how to RSVP and what we're going to be doing on each of those days. Okay. And then just a reminder, we are still releasing what no longer serves us. If you have any electronics, any old phones or anything like that, please go ahead and donate them. If you can't make it to 365, get with one of the ministers and we'll meet up with you to get those electronics. Those are so helpful to the communities that are in need of those things that can't use them. There are organizations that will recycle those things so that they can make best use of those things that no longer serve us. And the same thing with glasses. I don't know how many readers I have stationed strategically throughout the house. So a few of those, I had to go ahead and release and let go. Because again, there are people who may need it. You can be a blessing in somebody else's life and donate your old glasses or any old readers that you may have that you may not need because your prescription changed. So definitely, if you have that, again, if you can't make it to Living Truth 365, just contact one of the ministers and we'll make sure to go ahead and connect with you to get those items. Guys, rep and tees, get your rep and tees, rep what you like. All of the proceeds or many of the t-shirts that you get go to Living Truth 365 so we can continue with the programs that we do throughout the year for our community and for the greater community. So, we have all different kinds, repping spirituality, repping truth, repping love, all those things are available. Get your repping tee. The other tees that are available are your Breaking Barrier tees, because we got Breaking Barrier merch. Let's check out what we got right here, barrier free. I don't know. Everybody who's a part of the Breaking Barrier program should have a tee. That's just
at least barrier free.
It's just a thought. I'm gonna have to make it more than a thought in a minute, but I think everybody should have a Breaking Barrier tee. And again, all the proceeds go right back to Living Truth 365. So make sure you get yours. You can scan this QR code, or you can go to Etsy.KidFindingStudios.com, and there's a whole section about with Living Truth, and all of those items, the proceeds go back to Living Truth. And of course, we are online, right? We done got with the program a while now. So make sure you visit Living Truth 365 to see what's going on, what we have, what we're doing. And it has information on there as well, especially about the Breaking Barrier program, calendar of events, and all the things that we're continuing to do. We do have other supporting members of the community that are helping us to make sure we stay up to breast and put these things online. So please take advantage of that information that we have on livingtruth365.org. Thanks, Ty, as one of those members who is supporting us in that way. So let's finish up with our 2024 Breaking Barrier affirmation, and let's repeat that together 3 times.
There are no barriers in God. Therefore, there can be no barriers in me.
Again,
there are no barriers in God. Therefore, there can be no barriers in me.
And can we stop and just take a breath and feel that? Feel the energy, feel it in our bones, because we are conscious, we are grounded in truth, we know who we are. So this affirmation has particular meaning to each and every one of us. One last time.
There are no barriers in God. Therefore, there can be no barriers in me. And so it is.
Again, thank you so much for joining us today. Come on out on the first Sunday of August, on the 4th, so where Reverend Terry speaks. Other than that, have a divinely inspired day. Abundant blessings.